Thank you for joining us. Today's topic on SpringBoard Live is the shopping cart overview. So my name is Jeff Fitzgerald, if you don't know that yet. I also have Greg Robinson and Joel Swain with me here today. We're going to be walking you through an overview of setting up the shopping cart integration, what that looks like, what needs to be done from the perspective of a WordPress site. So, a lot of you actually, somewhere around 60% of all websites are on WordPress. So we know at least a few of you have that, and this is one of the most common things we see people wanting to do is connect their e-commerce site that they have on WordPress to SharpSpring. So today's agenda, we're going to discuss how to implement the shopping cart. So we're going to walk through all those steps, talk about what needs to be done. We're actually going to walk through the integration process, which involves placing some code into a specific file on the WordPress site. And then we're going to look at how we can analyze our revenue and the return on our investment, because we get that revenue data, those transaction costs into SharpSpring. We can associate them with campaigns. So again, the SharpSpring objective that we like to point out throughout all of our webinars here is that we really want to start out by driving more leads, by opening the top of our funnel, get those leads into some nurture campaigns, provide content to them that is relevant and engaging. So we're going to nurture those leads to convert them to sales. And then finally, today, we're going to be looking at optimizing ROI. So once we've basically got someone to the point of a sale, how can we look back at our processes and improve upon them? So what is a shopping cart? You guys may, as agencies, you probably don't have a shopping cart, right? Some of you may, but your clients most certainly will, at least some of them, at some point. E-commerce is a growing thing all the time. So a shopping cart for us is the ability to automatically record web transactions from an online store. So something like Shopify or WooCommerce. Those are two very common examples of online stores that make it easy for people to basically sell their goods online. And then we're able to attribute those sales to SharpSpring campaigns. So we could see, if we're running Facebook ads for our clients and they are trying to sell, let's take this simple example of maybe our client is trying to sell hand knitted scarves from their Shopify store. We're able to see if those Facebook ads were, translating to sales on their store for them. Then we're going to measure our end-to-end marketing ROI for e-commerce based businesses. So I sort of combine those there. But that's what we're going to really do here is we're going to be able to see when someone comes to our store, purchases something, where did they come from originally? How did they find our store? That sort of thing. So is that marketing working for them? So this is under the sales tab. You may not have previously seen the shopping cart option there. Previously, you would have to enable it by going through this integration, but you may see that now going forward. So just be aware that's where it is. It's sort of the other side of the coin for Ops 1. If you've been in the Ops 1 section, shopping cart is really similar. It's just the ledger for our transactions, for our purchases. Difference being that Ops 1, those would be sales that were made through a sales process, a high touch process with a salesperson, whereas a shopping cart is sort of just a one and done. Someone clicked buy on my site. So there are 3 calls, and this is now we're getting into sort of the technical weeds, if you will, of the shopping cart. So if this seems really unfamiliar, that's okay. Just sort of, we're going to mention these items a few more times, and I want to have them defined for you. So set transaction is a code method or a call that stores information about a single transaction, such as the ID number, the shipping charges, the billing address. So this is how we're going to actually pass information to SharpSpring. This is, we're sort of, if you would, put all this information into an envelope and send it over to the SharpSpring system. Add transaction item tracks information about each item in the shopping cart and associates the item with the transaction. So, the overall concept there is, we're putting all this information in a set transaction, and we have a subset of this for an item. And then the complete transaction call confirms the purchase. And this is how SharpSpring knows that we've basically, in our eyes, in the system of SharpSpring's eyes, we've closed an opportunity, we've made a completed sale, right? With all those things said, I'm going to keep going. We have 3 example scripts, guys, for WooCommerce, Magento, and Shopify. So these are things you'll need to reach out to us for. We can provide these scripts for you. These are the 3 largest or most common e-commerce platforms that we find people using. So we do have code already written out in a basic structure. It will need to be edited and tailored to your specific client and their store, but we do have these sort of ready to go for you. So if you have a client who uses WooCommerce, Magento, or Shopify, go ahead and reach out to us, and we'll work with you on getting the correct script for that. If you need any more information about this, there are some good articles in help.sharpspring.com for a shopping cart overview, how to actually do this. So step-by-step guides. We're going to basically follow this today in our webinar. We're going to go through all those processes here live. And then there's a troubleshooting guide. This is a technical topic, and so there are always, the chance of things going awry. So we do have a troubleshooting guide there as well. All right, so we're going to get started now. I'm going to jump over, and normally we start out in SharpSpring, right? But I'm going to start out here in my WordPress dashboard. So we're going to go through this with one of these e-commerce platforms. We're going to use WooCommerce. The process is relatively similar for the other two, but in the interest of time, we're really just going to go over what needs to be done for one of these, and then you'll be able to tailor this, or just have a general idea for what needs to be done in terms of the shopping cart down the road, right? We don't expect you to actually memorize all of this. We just want you to get an idea of the process of what it looks like to actually connect a shopping cart to SharpSpring using a WordPress site. So the first thing that I would do here is I would go here to plugins. So I'm on the user panel, or the tool panel on the left here. I'm going to go to plugins, and I'm going to look for a new plugin. So each of these platforms will have a plugin. I'm going to search for WooCommerce because that's the one we're using here. Oh, and it searched already for me. And so this is the plugin that I would be using. We've actually already installed this. We see latest version installed here. You would just want to go ahead and install this. This is going to make it so your WordPress site actually looks like a store, so you can sell things through that site. A WordPress site is just generally going to be a website. You do have to structure certain pages and things like that to actually sell. So that's what we'd do here. We're going to basically switch our WordPress site to a storefront using the WooCommerce platform. Okay, that's the first step. Oh, got out of there. So then we are going to create a product. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys what that looks like. And I'm going to go to products here. I'm going to go to all products. We don't actually need to do this. You may not actually need to do this. The reason we suggest doing this is because you want to create a product that you don't have to pay for, so you can test out this connection, right? So if I wanted to do that, I'd hit add new here. I can add this product. So I'm just going to call this one client consultation. So maybe I'm just going to consult with my clients for a fee. The fee is going to be $0 for us, right? I'm going to make this a simple product, make it virtual as well, and the price here is going to be 0. And then the last thing we're going to need to do here is to save this. So we're going to publish it. And we have a product now. So if I go over to all my products, I should see my second product. This is just really a test product, right? So I didn't add an image or anything like that. You will want to add a SKU number here, an SKU, to make this complete. But I just want to show you guys, this is really, if your client has an e-commerce site already set up, this is sort of redundant. You can just make a test transaction for the cheapest item, and that will work fine. The reason we're doing this is so we can purchase this $0 or free item and see that connection working. So actually get the connection. So we've so far basically set up the functionality for our store, made our WordPress site capable of selling goods on it. Now we're going to actually do the final step that actually connects SharpSpring to this e-commerce platform, or just pushes the data from this platform over to SharpSpring. So I'm actually going to go to Appearance here and Editor. And this is where I am. If you're not familiar with WordPress, the Appearance Editor is where I can change the code for any aspect of my WordPress site. And the one we're looking for today is going to be our functions.php file. This process is really similar to inserting tracking code. So Greg is going to jump in here real quick and mention how similar this is. He's got a few thoughts for you guys. So Greg's going to talk for just a second, and then we'll go ahead and put this code into the spot it needs to go.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, I just wanted to point out that this is the same place that you guys initially put the tracking code, or will be putting the tracking code for your client, right? So if you remember doing this in the past, you might have gone into the header PHP file or the footer.php file, and that's because we want the tracking code on some element that's on every single page. And so similar concept here with the shopping cart, we're just going to go ahead and put this code in not the header.php file, but the functions.php file. So I'm going to pass it on to Jeff, and he's going to dive into that. If you guys have any questions about this, myself and Joel are both on the Q&A today, so feel free to send us any questions you have, and we'll go from there. All right, Jeff, back to you.
All right, thanks, Greg. Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and pop in here to our theme header. So this is actually where you would have put the tracking code. You can actually see we have our tracking code in here. So if you've not if you've ever come across a WordPress site and wondered where you would put the tracking code, this theme header or header.php file is where that would go. You do need to have the tracking code on this site as well for this to work. So when someone purchases something from us, they do become a tracked lead in SharpSpring, but we do need the tracking code on the site for that as well. So if you are messing around in WordPress, if you're going in here, it might be good to just check that this is in here, check that your tracking code's in the header.php file, and if it is, then we'll move on to our functions, okay? So I'm going to look for my functions.php file, and I'm going to find it up here, so theme functions right above my header. And I actually have, so over here in another tab, this is the example code we use. This is the structure of the code. Now this will need to be tailored specifically to the store. So you will need a developer, someone who's familiar enough with PHP to edit this. It just needs some simple edits to be made functional for each specific store. But once that's done, and our team, we have a code team that will sort of guide you through that process. So, we'll be able to tell you what needs to be changed, what needs to be tailored exactly to the store. But I'm going to take this, and since I already have it, I'm just going to go ahead and copy it. And I already have this pasted in here, so I'm not going to do it. But you can just come in here, just like the tracking code, and here it is. You can just paste it straight away in here as is, once you've made the few simple edits. So you'll see here that store name is make your marketing. Obviously, store name is going to be unique to the store or the website, that sort of thing. So some simple edits will need to be made here. If you can't read this code and know what it does, it is good to get a developer to look at it for you and help you with that. Okay, so now that this is done, we already have this code in here, but I would have just pasted it, right here, and we'd be good to go. I'm going to hit update file there, and then we should be good to go. Now we can test this out. We're going to go to makeyourmarketing.us, and we're going to buy a product from our site. All right, so we have Make Your Marketing almost everything these days. And let me make sure that I didn't miss anything. So we're going to makeyourmarketing.us, and we're going to purchase one of our items. And then we're going to go ahead and see. So we have a storefront here now. You'll see that I have my client consultation that I just added. Doesn't look as nice as this new client configuration that has a nice photo. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and, so we are now here. I have my SharpSpring dashboard open. I'm going to purchase something here, and we're going to see if that comes over into SharpSpring, and you'll see that it will. So I'm going to add a new client configuration to my cart. Go ahead and view my cart, just like I was checking out of any online store, right? I'm going to go ahead and maybe I have a coupon. Luckily, it's free, so I don't need one. I'm going to proceed to check out here. It's going to ask me for some information. So let's call this one, SharpSpring. I'm just going to try and define this so we can tell which lead this was when we look in our e-commerce platform, or when we look in SharpSpring, I'm sorry. We'll leave all this information. That's the SharpSpring address. And I am going to give this my email address. All right. So we will leave this, since we have this set up, since it's free, we don't have to actually pay for this item. Again, we created that test item so you guys can, you can do this. You can check out. Maybe if there's troubleshooting involved, you don't want to charge your card, a couple different times. So it's just a good idea to, create a free item that you can test this out with. And I'm going to hit place order here. All right, so we're going to jump back over to SharpSpring. We'll see if this is updated yet. Again, sometimes it does come over after a few minutes. It does take a little while. So in the interest of time, we're not going to let you sit here and look for this. We're going to move on, and we're just going to talk about the things that will happen eventually here. Okay, so we'll look at one of our previous tests here. So you'll see I'm in here. These do sometimes take a little bit. So I'm going to check out Greg Robinson. We'll just go ahead and look at all the things that are going on here. So in the life of the lead, we can see that Greg actually made this purchase on our website. So every time someone makes a new purchase, that's going to appear here as this little shopping cart in the life of the lead. On his memberships tab, we'll see one opportunity with a transaction number. And then if we go back here to our shopping cart, I can actually see what Greg purchased. So Greg obviously purchased our free item as a test here. If I click on the one total item, it gives us the SKU number, the quantity, the price. So this would actually give you a summary, basically a receipt of what Greg purchased if he had purchased several items or several real items. In this case, it's just been some testing items that we've set up here, but you can imagine that you would have a nice, robust way to look at what Greg purchased, what that was worth, all that sort of thing. Now, I can also go ahead and see, if Greg came to us via a certain campaign. In this case, he didn't. But if Greg had come to us, these leads are being treated just like normal leads. They're tracked like normal leads when they come to that site. We place a tracking cookie on their device, and when they fill out that form, when they fill out the shipping and information, the billing form, we are able to associate that information with their tracking cookie. So it's just like they filled out a form, a SharpSpring form. They're tracked. We have their website visit history. And then we are also, so a part of that is the campaign that they're associated with. So if Greg clicked through a Facebook ad to find my e-commerce store, I would know that. I would have that associated with my campaigns under analytics, and I can see the revenue generated from those campaigns as it relates to the revenue that's been generated on my site. Okay, so I'm going to go to my campaign section here. And I'm going to go ahead and just click on my opportunities tab here. And so this is where I'm going to see the purchases that have been made. So we actually have this week, we've had 5 new contacts come in, and we've actually made 4 sales from those. So 4 of the 5 people who filled out forms for us purchased something. So we can imagine that we may have multiple forms going on here. In this case, we've had 4 sales. So 4 people basically through our shopping cart have become leads. And since we haven't charged them anything, they haven't really generated revenue for us, we're not seeing revenue, but we will still see the opportunities here where we can see these transaction IDs. They have $0 as their, as the value we've won. That's because they're that test item. But you'd see here that these opportunities coming into us through these campaigns. So over, we're looking at the overall campaign report here. That's fine. You would be able to segment this out just like any other campaign. So your Facebook ads or your Twitter posts or anything like that, you'd be able to segment this out and see your opportunities and the values associated with them once we have that set up. And you can export this out to a CSV so you can see these transaction numbers, the relative revenue, and the campaigns that they're associated with, so you can assess whether or not those are really functioning. All right, so I'm going to go show you guys one more thing that comes over from this shopping cart. So I'm going to go to settings. And so this shopping cart integration pushes over a lot of information, right? It pushes over a lead record. We generate a new lead for it. We also get that transaction ID, the information about the transaction, so what they purchased, how much it costs, the quantity, all that stuff. But actually the product gets created in SharpSpring for us as well when someone purchases something. So I'm going to scroll down here and we're going to find our products. And you normally would be creating these, so you would have to be, in here manually adding a product. But when we set up this e-commerce connection, this comes over automatically as part of the connection, as part of the transaction. So you'll see that we have our client onboarding here and new client configuration. We also have sold a t-shirt at one point for $500. It's one of those really fancy Kanye West t-shirts. We had once sold that on our e-commerce platform. But you see that these come over here from WooCommerce, from whatever platform we're using when those transactions are made, so you don't actually have to create these. You can also use that products, so you can use products there in our sales reports. You can filter out your reports by specific products. So I could go ahead and say, show me only my pipeline revenue for these new client configurations or my client onboardings or my Kanye West t-shirt. So that makes that whole process of segmenting out your reporting based off of products much easier. When those products are automatically created for you, all that stuff is coming over automatically once we have this connection established. So we have about 5 minutes left, guys. I'm going to check with Joel and Greg to see if we have any questions. Let me check with them, and then we'll pick up or either let you guys go.
All right, thank you, Jeff. So it looks like we did have a couple of questions. I was able to answer you guys here in real time. So I'm going to bring up some that were useful. It looks like we got one here just in from Andy. Andy's asking, can you send me the WooCommerce script after the webinar? No. I'm kidding. Yes, of course we can. Yeah, we're going to send it to you, Andy. I'm going to follow up with you and send you a text file, probably as an attachment in an email, and we'll go from there. You can absolutely have access to this. And so it looks like we got, of course, yeah, no problem. Of course, Andy, no problem. And a couple other questions here. We in terms of, let's see, no, I think we're pretty much covered them all on the chat. So aside from that, I know some common questions that come up with regards to shopping cart is, does shopping cart work with my custom PHP shopping cart e-commerce build? And the answer is absolutely yes. Okay, and it probably works better with a custom build over any other build because you have all the necessary components, all the nitty gritty, what's going on in the background. But you do need a developer for this stuff, guys. It's really difficult to do on our own if we're not one with a lot of code knowledge. So we in the professional services here at SharpSpring are able to help you out in any way, shape, or form with this sort of stuff. It would just take on our end a couple of hours to get squared away for you, and then you can go from there. But aside from that, it looks like we were able to get all of the questions answered here on the webinar. It looks like we're all good to go. So Jeff, I'm actually going to pass it back to you, and you can sort of wrap everything up.
All right, thanks, Greg. So thanks guys for joining us. Next week, we're going to be switching gears, dropping back to an intermediate level session. I know that a lot of the stuff we talked about today may be not necessarily over your heads, but not something you see or hear very often. Again, as agencies, I know that you guys probably don't have your own e-commerce platforms, but we want you to have this knowledge, be armed with this knowledge for your clients that do. If someone comes to you and says, does SharpSpring integrate with my shopping cart? How difficult is it? Hopefully you have a good idea of that now, so you can answer that question with confidence. You don't have to be the one to set this up, but it can be done, and you should have an idea of what needs to be done now. So next week we're going to be working on a new topic, so fresh and so clean, keeping your data tidy. We're going to review the importance of staying organized, discuss methods for keeping data clean, evaluate techniques, and discuss naming conventions. So, it's easy to, if you start out with bad practices in terms of naming things in SharpSpring, if you get a couple months or years down the road, now you have this big mess of data. So we're just going to talk about good practices for that. It's great to start fresh. So if you guys have new clients coming on, you'll be armed with these best practices for setting them up for success in the future, right? And then also we'll talk about how to go ahead and clean up some of the data you may already have that's disorganized. So again, thanks for joining, guys. If you have any questions or comments about this, you can email us, learn@sharpspring.com, or you can always get to the training team by submitting a support ticket, app area training, and then we will get on the phone with you and work through your solutions one-on-one. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend. Happy Friday. And if we don't see you before then, happy 4th of July.